Hey everybody, Movie Reviewer Next Door here, and I'm back with another review. And this time I will be closing out the Psycho series for now. Maybe I'll watch Bates Motel another day or at another time with Psycho for the Beginning. It's a 1990 horror film directed by Mick Garris, and it stars Anthony Perkins, Henry Thomas, Olivia Hussey, CCH Pounder, Warren Frost, and Donna Mitchell. In this film, Norman Bates recalls his childhood with his abusive mother on a radio show boys who commit matricide. So, what did I think of Psycho for the Beginning? Well, I didn't know exactly what to expect going into this, but just a bit of a recap for people who've forgotten. I think the first film is decent. I love the second film to death. I think it is a fantastic horror thriller, psychological. I do think the third one is a good movie that has some moments of offness, maybe due to Anthony Perkins finding out that he had AIDS around the time, but still a well directed and well done film, uh, with some very gut punchy moments. And this film, I'd say, is about on the same level as the third one for me, because I do like this film, and it's a very different film from the third, the second, and the first. I can say that for each of these films, they are going for almost completely different things. But let me get in. Again, spoiler warning. All four of these reviews are spoiler reviews. Because I have to. In order to get into what I like about these films and what makes me love the series so much, I have to. Um, Anthony Perkins plays Norman Bates yet again. I think he gives another great performance. Um, I've got to say it's really brave of Anthony to do this movie, even though he was very ill at this point. He still acts the fuck out of this role. And Henry Thomas plays a young Norman Bates, about a 15-year-old, 16-year-old Norman Bates. He does a really good job emulating Anthony Perkins' level of craziness. Um, and does a really good job doing the socially awkward personality and the mother personality. Um, really fine young actor. Olivia Hussey plays Norma Bates, and I'll explain that whole thing in a sec. But um, Olivia Hussey is an actress that I need to watch more of her movies, along with Anthony Perkins, because she was in the original Black Christmas, which I still haven't seen. She was in the It miniseries, and I think she did a great job in that. She was in Death on the Nile. She was good in that. Ice Cream Man. She's a horror legend at this point, and she deserves a lot more recognition. But here she plays a very scary Mrs. Bates, and I think this was perfect casting. I think she does a very bang up job. CC Pounder plays Fran Ambrose, the host of the talk show that Norman ends up going on. I think she does a good job as well. I've always liked her. She's always popped up in random movies and shows. Um, Warren Frost plays Dr. Leo Richmond. He's one of the psychiatrists on the show. He does a good job. I've seen him in a lot of stuff. And Donna Mitchell plays Connie Bates, who is apparently a worker at the sanitarium that Norman was at, that they fell in love and they're thinking of having a child. And yeah, this film. The weird thing about this film is it is called Psycho 4, but it kind of it's in certain places it ignores first or the two sequels and certain revelations in those sequels, such as in the second finding out that Mrs. Bates wasn't Norman's actual mom, and that it was Miss Spool. Miss Spool was his mother. Um, it ignores that by saying, but in literally a line where Norma says, I should have killed you. You just about tried to kill me when you were coming out of my womb." Uh, but I'd say you can watch this as either. Um, you can watch this after the whole series, or you can watch this as a direct sequel to the first, because it was originally meant to be that. And it does get a bit confusing in that respect, but other than that, I just think this is a very well done and pretty intense thriller that, even though some people say, oh, it has a cheapness to it because it's made for TV, Showtime movies usually didn't look that cheap, and this film looks pretty damn good, I gotta say. It looks about on the level of the rest of the movies in the series. None of the movies in the series have been like insanely high budget, but by the way, but I don't think it's exactly fair to say that this looks low budget because it doesn't. It looks about on the same budget level. It uses a lot of the same sets. You still have the motel itself. You have the old house, and overall, this is a film that's kind of in two sections. There's one half of it that is Norman calling into a radio station saying that he's thinking of murdering again, and he's talking with this radio host, and half of it is him recounting his childhood with Ms. Bates, who he is calling mother, which again is a bit weird since in the second one they revealed that Spool was his actual mother, but let's just go with it. I still I like each of these sections quite well because there's the one section where CCH Pounder's like talking to him, trying to get him to reveal where he is, and it's kind of a race against time thriller where they're trying to get him to tell them who he's going to kill or give some hints or maybe try to stop him from killing this person. And then you've got the backstory where he's telling about what happened with Mother, how he killed her, and what she did to him. And there's some really actually pretty fucked up stuff in this. You'd think after all the movies I've seen, after seeing a Serbian film, after seeing Human Centipede, after seeing Hereditary, after seeing all of these movies that people are like, this most disturbing thing ever. I find this a bit more disturbing because the implications are quite fucked up. Uh, one of them being that the mother, at one point, she's like, apparently she's deathly afraid of uh, thunderstorms, so she wants Norman to get in bed with her and cuddle, and you're like, oh, nice. That's sweet. She just wants someone to hold while the storm passes. No, she wants him to strip into his underwear and then get with her, and then it's insinuated that he got, you know, a rise, and then he gets scared. And this film doesn't go as far as implying that they slept together, and I'm glad they didn't go that far, but they do imply that he is a very sheltered child and his mother has gaslit him to the point where he believes he can only trust her because and that it really is fucked up. It happens there's another time where she's asking him to put oils all over her, and I'm like, are they really going this direction? They're not. But and then they like roll around together and she feels that he is getting a rise, and then she ends up putting a dress on him and locking him in a boudoir until he learns to stop being a man. And they're not putting like a trans thing in there, but they are insinuating that she is disappointed in him for being a man or something like that, which is pretty scary and reminds me of a lot of real world things. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But it it the acting there really sells it. Olivia Hussey and Henry Thomas both work very well together on screen. And in the hands of lesser actors, these scenes would have come off comical. And it would have been more so bad's good, like, haha, look at them trying to do this kind of incestuous subplot or incestuous plot between mother and son. And not even really what they do, it's a lot more fucked up than that. It's more that she's, I guess, afraid of losing him, but also hates him. She's absolutely insane. And they imply that it's because of the death of the father, And just after that, she just went fucking insane. She can't keep the business anymore. So maybe they're hinting at a tragic villain thing, but Norman has always kind of been a tragic villain. I mean, throughout the movie, I feel bad for him in certain respects. Um, and it really does add something to this character that a lot of other characters don't have. Like, take Jason from Friday the 13th, for instance. Yeah, he drowned. That's not really much of a backstory. He drowned because camp counselors weren't watching him, and now he's killing every camp counselor. Uh, Freddy Krueger, uh, because people thought he was a pedophile. Um, Michael. Now I'm forgetting. Does Michael even have a backstory, really? Not sure. I haven't watched a lot of the Halloween movies. I've seen Halloween 1 and 2. That's about it. But I I do think this film is a lot better than most people give it credit for, along with 2 and 3. I think these are all three a very, very respectful to the original, and they never go so far that it feels like they're making fun of it. They're very respectful to the original source material while doing their incredibly different things. Again, the first film is a suspense thriller. Second one is a psychological thriller and character study of Norman Bates. The third one is kind of a dark comedy, tragic romance. And this one is a race against the clock thriller about a man thinking of taking another life. It's a very interesting road these have gone down. It's kind of like the 33 series where each film is different from the last. And it's there really aren't any words to describe the series because there's really nothing else like it. And again, when the first one came out, a lot of or when the first sequel came out, people were like, "Really? They made a sequel to Psycho?" Yeah, it's a pretty. I mean, I love Psycho 2. I just love it. And Psycho 3 is good, and this one's good. I think this is a very fine series. And with the whole child thing, I think that's an interesting idea of that each of these films go into very interesting commentary about normal life. Like in this one, it's will evil transfer? What will his mother's voice in his head transfer from him to his child that he's having with this mental patient worker or mental hospital worker? And I think that's a very terrifying thought. Like, what if? What if he ends up having the same issues as him and he breeds another murderer? And you can really understand why he wants, well, I mean, you can't understand why he wants to kill his wife, but you can understand why he would try to avoid having a child. And it's a really interesting thing that this film does. And I'm glad that this wasn't just a copycat of the first film. None of the sequels are copycats of the first film. If anything, they're loving tributes. Like, nothing ever feels shoehorned in. References to the first don't feel shoehorned in. I will say this film borrows a bit too much of the original score when the second and third barely used it. But what you gonna do? Definitely, probably a lower budget for this because it was a TV movie, but still. Um, the film also runs at a pretty good pace. It's only 96 minutes, about the length that something like this should be. Does not stay its welcome. It's got some pretty interesting. Sorry, allergies, tears a bit. Um, it's got some pretty interesting uh, visual flair. I haven't seen a lot of Mick Garris's work. I'm not sure I've seen any of his films. Sleepwalkers, The Stand. He did a lot of Stephen King adaptations, which I haven't seen. Um, but yeah, um, but yeah, there's a bit at the end when the house is burning and uh, well, Norman's trying to stop all these visions and Mother's voice, so he's burning the house down. And he's seeing visions of his victims and his mother. I really liked that, and this ending scene is very visually compelling. It is not in your face. It's not like lecturing you or anything. It's just the house burning down around him trying to destroy his past so that he can live the rest of his life with with his wife. He wants to live a normal life. He wants to get past being told by his mother to do all these things and being forced to do these things. And I don't know, it just made me feel something. It's tragic villain that you want to root for. And it makes everything a lot sadder once you realize that Anthony Perkins died 2 years after this was filmed. And that sucks. Sorry. It really does suck. Because you're like, oh, he makes it through the movie, but then he dies. And it kind of reminded me of my feelings in The Shootist with John Wayne, given that spoilers for The Shootist, he dies at the end of that film, and he died not long after that. That was his final film. And he died due to cancer that he got from working on the set of Genghis Khan around very radioactive factories. And I don't know, something about art imitating life there really got to me, and I really rooted for this guy. I want Norman Bates to get better, and it seems with how this ended, it actually had a very rare good ending for a horror franchise because most of them end up trying to go one sequel too far. I think this is the perfect amount of sequels for the series because it told a very compelling story throughout all of them. So yeah, if you were into Psycho 2, Psycho 3, I definitely recommend picking this up. The Blu-ray set, I'd recommend getting that. Uh, if you're okay with not having special features, apparently Scream Factory did all four of these movies on Blu-ray, or at least Psycho 2, 3, and 4. This one only has features for Psycho, but still, the movies all look good. Um, yeah, if you just want the movies, get this. You still got the 4 hours of features for the first movie, but still, um, I just this movie is it. This movie series has been a lot, and I've enjoyed revisiting it and finally seeing 4 for the first time. And yeah, I hope other people will enjoy it like I did. So that was my review of Psycho 4, the beginning. If you've seen the film, let me know in the comments what you thought. If you have any recommendations, put those in the comments as well. And movie reviewer next door, out.